Okay, good morning everyone. Since Dr. Matthew has already joined us, I think it's a good time to start. And by the way, we've waited today for everyone to join since yesterday. The the bad weather actually is a good weather for the UAE, and we're glad always to have heavy showers from time to time. So today, as we said earlier, we are going to uh, have a quick review over chapter 11 covered part, and we'll go to the configuration part of the chapter. We're gonna review all the configuration commands. We will prepare you for the upcoming labs, okay, where we will sit and practice all the labs mentioned over here. From time to time we are going to use our packet tracer, and we'll demonstrate some more packet tracer skills and new tools to navigate through the tools of the packet tracer menu, windows and everything. Okay, so after we finish inshallah chapter 11, we're gonna move to chapter 7 and 8. Okay, I don't think that today we'll finish chapter 7. Hopefully we'll finish it, and later on we'll move to chapter 8. Do you have any question before we start? Any doubts about your what we've learned yesterday, the subnetting skills, IP addressing and everything? What we were proposing is this is what we were proposing is a session, face-to-face session, where we invite all our academy instructors, and we'll revise subnetting skills, variable length subnet mask, and we'll give an extra tasks and lab activities to do them. Okay, so let's start with chapter 11. Well, great. Well, chapter 11, it's all about configuring Cisco networking devices like router and switch. Okay, we will have a brief introduction over here about the iOS and role of iOS. Cisco devices, as we said earlier, Cisco device is just like a computer. It's a hardware where we have an iOS installed on it. The iOS determines the features of this device together with the extra hardware you add to the device. Okay, so you can modify your device, you can add some cards to enable your device of being capable of providing a service like an IP telephony and other services. Okay, so the Cisco device, we've introduced in the lab the Cisco device, and we studied the different ports. We actually connected those ports to our devices. Just to remind you over here, the console port was the port used for the management purpose, where we connected to our serial port, and we configure it using the Hyper Terminal and other softwares available with Windows. Okay, auxiliary port and modem access, they're used again for management purpose. Okay, so they are not used actually for sending and receiving data, information, real packets. Okay, now most of the routers, they have by default a fast Ethernet port, okay, to connect the router to the switch, where you can create a network using switches and routers. Okay, now all of the routers, they must have a WAN access, a WAN port, where they can be interconnected to each other. Okay, so we'll move on. We've seen how the configuration, the minute we configure our router or our switch, those configurations, they take effect immediately. You don't need to save them. You don't need to copy them to the NVRAM. The minute you do them, they are already used by the device. But the thing is, if you don't save them, if you don't keep a backup, if you don't move them from the RAM, because all the configuration you do are made on the RAM, they will be lost the minute you restart your device. We have a memory called NVRAM, non-volatile random access memory, that will retain the information even if you power cycle your device. Okay, the same configuration and the same information, we have them in the running config. okay? In the RAM we call them running config. The minute we copy them to the NVRAM we will call them startup config, because the router will use them to start up. What if you don't have anything in the NVRAM? The router is going to go into the mode where we'll give you questions if you wish, and you'll answer to those questions. It's an easy, friendly way of configuring your router. But most probably we are not going to use that. We will answer no, and we'll go ahead and configure our device. We'll see this again using Packet Tracer today. Okay, we studied different levels of modes and privilege, starting with the user exec command mode, and going to the privilege exec mode, and going to the global configuration mode. Each of them can be protected with a password. Each of them can accomplish a certain task for you. For example, using the first mode, which is the user mode, you can ping and show some, you have some limited show commands. Okay? For the privilege mode, you have a little bit more advanced show commands, okay, and some few configuration mode, like the configure terminal that takes you to the global configuration mode. Through the global configuration mode we can configure our router. So this is the most important mode to us, and it has a sub modes where you can go to the specific interface and configure that interface. Okay, so we've seen the iOS prompt structure. We've seen over here, let me use my annotation tool. Okay, we've seen over here the different cursors over here. Okay, this one indicating the different modes, and we have to be familiar with the modes and the comments available on each of the mode. It's quite common that you issue a comment and that comment is correct, but it will give you an error message. Most probably you are in the wrong mode, so you have to correct it by going to the appropriate mode. Okay, do we have any questions so far? Well, great. Okay, this is a common example of the different modes. Okay, the same over here. For the time being, there is no difference between the commands used for the for the switch and the router. They consist of the same modes: the user mode, the privilege mode, and the user the advanced global configuration mode. Okay, so as we said, each command consists of the following. They are very similar to commands used in DOS. Anyway, it's CLI. Most of CLI commands are similar to each other, like those that we use for Linux, Kubuntu, Ubuntu, and different operating systems that use the CLI. Okay, so the first one, it is the prompt that tells you in which mode you are. The second one over here, we have it the command. Okay, so the first one, which was the prompt, okay, it tells you in which mode you are. This is the command, and this is the keyword or the argument, whatever we call it, an argument. Okay, fine. Okay, so there are many skills you can adopt working with the commands. So such things, it's for you to read. They are not commonly used. Okay, and hopefully in the future we will come across them and we'll practice them more and more. Okay, now our first task was during the lab work was the setting the clock, setting the time, and setting the date. Okay, it's very important to set a correct time and correct date. And by the way, there is an authentication server where all Cisco devices, they can get the date and update their information from. Okay, so it's an automatic, it can happen as an automatic process. But since in our lab we are not connected to such device, it's advisable to configure it. Okay, so we saw how it's easy to configure the time and the date. Okay, use enable Okay. End or exit.